let's get to the good stuff. Trigun, Stampede. It is so good.
So good.
It's unnecessarily good. It's
For real.
it shattered everybody's expectations because the art style changed, which I was a little bit trepidatious about because it was a weird choice. But when I heard what studio was doing it, I was a little bit more hopeful, but still a little bit worried until we finally saw it animated. And I was like, okay, the worry about the animation was gone, but I was always worried about and very skeptical about the story changes. And you know, despite how much I've kind of said I liked it, but there's certain aspects I don't like. Once we finally
Mm.
got to the finale, I was like, you know what? Those aspects of like it being too serious, I still stand by that. I think that there should have been so many more, like we said before, filler, but not filler the type that they make to you know, pad the story so that the manga catches up, but the type of filler that gives you some like alleviation throughout the story and some levity. We needed more.
Right.
We needed more of that, and I wish that that Vash was more goofy as a way to hide his emotions rather than being very obviously sad all the time.
Yeah.
I just felt like that took the depth away from his character when you show that he's sad all the time rather than having it being buried under his guise of goofiness and happiness. But those are my only complaints. Other than that, it's amazing, and I love, absolutely love how they recontextualize Knives' motivations because I
Mm.
don't really remember his motivations from the comics, and I think that's very telling about his motivations in the comics being much more shallow than they are in the show itself. Because I feel like the motivation is similar, but the ultimate goal is much more understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me hear what you think about it overall without spoiling
So,
it just yet.
of course, I loved it. I will say, uh, I don't have the context of the original manga. I started reading it, but then like didn't really understand what was going on, to be honest. So I was like, So I watched Stampede first, loved it. If I had a nickel for every piece of media that, and I won't elaborate further on that, but the plot points in Stampede and the plot points in some of the other media that I consume are very similar, and I don't know if that's telling about me as a person or telling about like the state of the world right now. It might be both.
Oh, same.
It's like, huh, I've seen that plot point before.
It's always two brothers, one evil, one good. I know what you mean. It's a
Yeah,
trope. It's a trope.
yeah. But I loved it. The animation, fantastic. Everything about it was fantastic. There's one specific scene that I can't bring up here that like ah, it had me like rolling around on the floor in agony in a good way, of course.
Okay, so saying that, let's get into spoilers. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! There will be a big red spoiler alert on the screen, like always. So yeah, let's get into it. But what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the scene with I can't remember their name right now. The
Robert,
bug creature
uh,
person.
uh,
And they were
Zazie.
like, yeah, and they were like, who's gonna do better from my planet? I was like, ah, man.
Could you be a little more specific?
Like, when I keep wanting to call her Millie, I know she's Meryl, but my brain is like Millie, because Millie was in the original Trigun. But when Meryl and Roberto had reached Knives, I did say Meryl. Meryl and Roberto had reached Knives's lab in July, and they were talking about like, who's gonna do better for my planet, humanity or Knives and his gang, and I was like, no, that's so real though.
Yeah,
Like I don't
no,
know.
for real. It's very there's definitely a level of kind of like environmentalism because the like again we're talking spoilers like this is something that in the manga you don't find out until literally this point in the series. You don't find out like till the finale of that first part of the series. You don't find this out, but you learn this at the beginning that humans are coming from Earth to outer space and other planets because they destroyed the planet
Right.
the way that we're currently destroying the planet, and they are using these kind of like other dimensional beings to as an energy source, and they're living creatures, and
Right.
essentially Knives is essentially like an environmentalist and like an animal rights activist. But yeah, that was definitely very real on Zazi's part, which It wasn't until the episode like after that, which might have been a finale, when I realized that Zazie was a worm, and was like literally just like one of those giant worms. I was like, oh, I didn't notice that before. I thought they were just like some experiment created by somebody, but no, they are like one of the animals that live on that planet. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
I got
I had
that from the when when they ate the main cast. I was like, oh, they're the head
no. I
worms.
just thought that I knew that they can control the worms, but I didn't realize it was like that.
Oh, to that capacity, that's
Yeah.
real.
Like when they had like I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention enough in that episode, but when Zazie had like turned into a bunch of bugs, I was like, when could Zazie do that? I don't remember
Where did
Zazie
that
doing that
come
before,
from?
but
Yeah,
they probably did do that in that episode, and I just forgot. But yeah, that was dope. But also, Knives' whole plan of tapping into this energy to try and impregnate all of the other plants so that they could kill all the humans and that the plants can populate the planet and essentially make the planet this luscious green place that they could live on, and it's their own home. And he
right.
ultimately is doing this out of love for his brother. He wants to protect his brother and his people. He doesn't give a damn about the humans. But Vash is like, no, like the humans deserve to live beside us. They shouldn't all pay for the mistakes of their
A couple
ancestors.
people. Yeah, and it's like I think the biggest thing for me was like that, like how they represented it. Represented it, jeez. They represented that idea of like bodily autonomy and how like uncomfortable the last couple episodes were with the whole opening the rift thing. I was like, ugh, the whole time, but I understood narratively why it had to happen that way, and it was just great.
Oh yeah, you know what? I didn't think about it that way, and I think that's definitely your very like more feminine perspective because I didn't even think about it like that. But now that you point it out, you're absolutely right. That was very there's definitely some shades of like assault in that like a man
Yeah,
like a cis man like me just didn't think about until you just said it.
yeah, because it's like I get that idea of like wanting. It's like in trying to give the other plants autonomy, Knives is taking away their autonomy by forcing them to become independent. Because it's like you don't know them. It's like what if they don't want the burden of consciousness of independence? Like, did you think about that? No. It's just it was, man. Finale was great.
Yeah, and
Trigun
it's
was
funny
great. I really liked
because where he has those powers to kind of forcibly control people, the plants, Vash has the power to actually communicate with them.
it. Right.
So Vash knows what they want versus, Knives thinking that he knows what they want without
Right.
actually knowing. Um, but yeah, also like I see what they were doing with Roberto. Ultimately, I think he didn't serve much of a purpose
Yeah.
because I didn't care about him honestly when he
I was
died.
still sad when he died though.
I was gonna say that. Despite that, I actually was kind of sad when he died. Up,
Mostly because Meryl was sad though.
true, because honestly, up until he died, I really didn't care. And I actually had his death spoiled,
Dang.
and I was like, dang, that sucks that I had that spoiled, but also I kind of don't care. But then what happened? I was like, dang, it's sad. But you're right. Now that you said it, I think I was only sad because Meryl was sad. I didn't really care that he was dead because I don't give a damn about his character. He wasn't an interesting character to begin with, but the impact he had on Meryl was significant, and that is the only thing that really mattered to me. But now that we are gonna get Millie, I'm happy, and
Yeah.
she's 100%, especially since because like I said before, I think she might be related to him with either his daughter or his niece or something like that.
Mm.
And the fact that they said that Millie specifically wanted to work for Meryl, I think that's a clue that she is related to Roberta because
Yeah.
she wants to know like what happened to this person that I have this
Care
connection
about.
to, so I want to work with you and find out what happened and also kind of work alongside you to maybe finish what he didn't get a chance to.
Right.
And the next season is essentially setting up Maximum because
Mm.
the way Maximum begins is Vash is essentially kind of a he looks the exact same with the long hair and the beard and the glasses, but also he is like retired. Except in the manga, it's not that he lost his memory. He kind of just uh
Is retired.
yeah he's retired and doesn't want a part in anything. And then Wolfwood comes and essentially recruits him like, hey, you can't like ignore what your brother is doing. Um, so yeah, uh, I'm interested what they're doing with this because this time he has amnesia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to say too much manga because I don't want to spoil it for you because it is very different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, That's all I really got to say about Trigun. How about you?
Yeah, same here. I love Wolfwood. That's all.
Oh yeah, Wolfwood's easy. One of my favorite characters. The episode when they first show his cross, I was so excited because his cross is one of my favorite weapons in anime history.
Oh, it's so
It's
cool.
so cool when he unfurls it and you're like, oh, that's a gun. His cross is a gun. That's cool. And he
Right.
is a super soldier and can just toss it around like it's nothing.
And then like the whole thing of having a cross that like I love it as a weapon, but then I also love it thematically because like I if man, I'm getting too excited. Hold on, let me calm down. Like I love characters with figurative crosses to bear, but then when you make the figurative literal like that, so good. So good. I love Wolfwood so
Oh
much.
yeah, oh yeah. I like the. Actually, no. I was about to say something that actually happened in the manga between like they touch on it a little bit. But let's actually move on to comics. But I'm reading Trigun Maximum, and again after finishing the amazing Trigun Stampede finale, which actually hold on, let's talk about that fight scene at the end. Hold on, we didn't talk
It
about that.
went
We didn't talk about that
so crazy.
because this thing, I was kind of upset at the way that Vash's powers looked visually because I was like, why does it look like a
Mm,
branch? It's weird. Because in the comic and in the anime, it's more similar to knives, and it's more kind of like shiny or reflective, or it's kind of like a porcelain type white. And I was like,
mm.
man, this doesn't look as cool as I thought it would. But I realized, oh, his wing was actually made out of his arm. That's why it looks different. But also,
Yeah.
but also when he finally formed the gun, I was like, okay, that is almost exactly the exact same design of the giant arm cannon that he had in the comic. So I was like, okay, I'm satisfied now. even, even though the coloring was different, it still was the same design, and his is meant to be more kind of like a tree, like bark, kind of. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, you know what? I'll take it back. It looks cool. But I'm excited to see what more he might do with that power in the future.
Yeah, it's gonna be dope.